Hi everyone, this will be our sessions on writing literature reviews. My intention here is just to walk you through the slides and the presentation that I would normally give if we were in class. And I'm going to break this up into a couple sections so that the sections could be more logical, that you could skip through one section if you've already seen it once without having to fast forward through the entire thing again. And then it's also to make the files smaller so that you can download them easier, watch them, stream them easier, at whatever point you choose to do it. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing here that we need to talk about is criticism. A major part of the literature review is to be critical of the literature that you read. And now being critical doesn't mean to pan it in some negative sense and just say, oh, it's really bad. In the use of a dictionary definition of criticism, we're talking about it's an evaluation of the literature itself, and we're doing that because we want to see how useful it is, how credible it is, how much it has to tell us, and if what it says is really good information, and as well as look at the quality of the work. And you can trust yourself to raise questions here. You all have experience, you all have read, and you don't need to assume that just because a article is in a journal or it's a published book or something that it's automatically great and beyond question. It's okay to raise some questions. So with that, we'll just go ahead and keep talking about that. So we're interested in the extent to which the information here is trustworthy, valid, logical, as they say in the first chapter of the book. And the result of that in the end is that we can become better consumers of literature, and then we can best see how to apply what we're reading to our particular work. Because as I've said, if it's not useful to you in your study, then there's no reason to include it. So the purpose of literature review can be the framework for your research proposal. As I mentioned a couple times, it can help you see where your study fits into the bigger picture and can help guide the reader to understand that, so that we know what you're doing and what you're not doing. So it can give us some perspective on your question. If it's a complicated area, it can again show us where it fits. If it's a new area, then it can help us understand how your question and your issues fit in with other things that are related. So it can serve as a roadmap to the field or to the issues that you're focusing on. It can create some benchmarks. Maybe you need to identify the things that have been done to this point on a topic, so that you can show us how what you're what you will be doing will be different. In some sense, in that way, it can also limit the scope of the inquiry, so you can show what you're doing and what you're not going to be doing, so that you can say, well, I'm going to be focusing on these areas and not delving into these other areas, but you can show that you've read them and you're aware of them. Doing all this can also convey how important a topic is and why your particular study will be a significant contribution to our understanding, and that allows you to say why the research is needed. So with that, let's talk about some things about what a literature review is not. And so for this part of this discussion, I will define what a literature review is, but first let's talk about what it is not. So it's not a book report, first of all. So I've asked you, and I'll repeat again, it's not just to give a list of articles and some general impressions of things. So don't just assemble information and write a few, kind of vague reflections and reactions on it. So it's not just compiling a bunch of quotes or a bunch of information or paraphrases from articles. It's also not an annotated bibliography. Those things have their place and they're certainly useful. But I'm asking you again to not go article by article and then just give a summary of each one with maybe some comments, and then present the next paragraph another article with some comments, and then in the next paragraph another article with comments. That's very disjointed, and it's not the kind of thing that we want to read in a research paper. We're interested in something that's more connected and flowing and is more thematic, and we'll talk about what that is a little bit. It's also just not a writing exercise to collect best practices and ideas. So don't just say, well, I read a bunch of things and here's the best of what I've found as far as ideas on my topic. We are trying to present this complete picture of what's out there as much as we can, in this assignment with a limited literature review. But we're trying to give some context for the questions and the issues that you're dealing with as well. So a literature review should be, it's an original piece of writing that's created by you, and we look to you to be the expert on this topic, giving you what you're going to be reading and what you're going to be learning, and maybe what you already know about a topic. Certainly, after you've researched it, you'll know more about it, more you have an idea what's been written and researched on it to this point. So we look to you as an expert to tell us, the reader, what's most important for us to know relative to your topic and your question. Again, you don't have to cover the entire field of the issue that you're dealing with. You're dealing with it as it relates to your particular topic in question. So you tell us what's most important for us to know relative to the issue that you're dealing with there. It can act as a bridge between the larger literature and your specific topic in question. The placement in this project paper, I've asked you to put it in the third section after you walk us through the introduction and context, and then you state the research problem and give us your statement of purpose and the research question and all that. The next section will be this literature review, and it can help you bridge between the big issues in the context that you're dealing with, and then getting down to why your particular way of looking at it is the right way, the right approach. So don't lose sight of this as an important function of this section. And also, just doing it and what you tell us, having that in there, it allows you to speak with some authority, allows you to take some ownership of the topic, and it demonstrates to people that you've done your homework and that you're knowledgeable. And so all that boosts the credibility of your paper. It boosts your credibility as a researcher if we can see that you've already gone through a lot of the literature and you can demonstrate that you know the lay of the land relative to this topic, and then you can branch off from there. So a literature review should give us a summary of what's been written and what's available in your topic in terms of research, and also in terms of theory to some extent. There's lots of ways to do a literature review, but the best of them usually identify some kind of relationships between studies and between lines of thought, schools of thought in your area. You can also talk about contradictions between two approaches or two ways of thinking about something. You can point out gaps and or inconsistencies in the literature. Where do people not agree? What it's missing? What are the things that aren't quite right when you look across studies? What are the kind of things that people aren't agreeing upon? Then you can also give us next steps and the kinds of things that would help address these gaps and inconsistencies and the contradictions that you observe. And then overall, it should again walk the reader through and give us some information about the main trends, the main themes, maybe the main categories that you observe and that you would classify things into. So when it's done, the literature review should be organized around and directly related to your thesis or your research question that you're developing. I usually tell people to think about your topic and question as sort of the center of the wheel, and sort of the central hub, and then whatever spokes branch off from that are things that you can draw some connections to between those things and your topic. But always keep your topic and your question as a central focus of this exercise, and you'll be doing your job there. They should also synthesize some results into the summary of what is known and what's not known, so that we have an understanding in what the literature says and really what does the research say. What is there evidence for in relation to what you're looking at? So if you're looking at a particular program or some kind of lesson, or maybe a software program or a new technique or something, what does the evidence say? Does it work or does it not? And how has it been studied? That's what we're looking at. Or what kinds of context, what kinds of factors matter when examining whether it works or doesn't. So give us a sense of what's known and what's not known about what the evidence says in relation to your question. Not just what the theory is saying, but what is really known based on evidence. You can identify areas of controversy in the literature, especially if there's controversy over what's known and what's not known. You can go into those controversies and give us a sense of what are the arguments, what are the disagreements among people that are researching this, either in teachers in schools or education scholars or people in practice or people in government. What is the controversy based on the evidence. And then you can also the review should formulate questions that are going to need further research. So the best literature reviews, again, just because this is sort of a little bit of a review here, but the best review will situate your study in the context of other work that's already been done. It's going to inform the reader about any theories that your study is based on, and what's known about them, or where maybe there's disagreements or inconsistencies among theories. By the time it's done, it should establish the need for your investigation. The best way to do this is to show where the gaps are, and then after you identify that, then you can talk about how your study is going to fill in one of those gaps. If there's any terminology that or concepts that need to be defined, you can talk about them there. Sometimes it's also good to have these in the introduction, and then save the space in literature review for evidence. But maybe if there is, if part of the disagreements or part of the inconsistencies that you're finding in literature have to do with terminology or some important concepts, you can do that there. But I guess in general, I would caution you, don't just do definitions here as like a way to fill up space. I mean, if there's something important we need to know about literature as it relates to definitions, then do that. But otherwise, they can go in the introduction, just to give us some context. And then by the end, the literature review will give us the basis for your chosen strategy.